Further debate? I recognize the member from Eglinton Lawrence.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would like to start my inaugural speech by congratulating you and also all of my fellow MPPs, both new and returning, on all sides of the House. I look forward to working with each one of you. We all have the incredible honour and duty of bringing the voices of our constituents to this place and to the attention of our colleagues, as I hope to do today. Words cannot describe the honour that I feel to rise here in this House and to represent the people of my riding, and to play some small part in the making of Ontario's history. In fact, I am a Conservative largely because of history, maybe because of the French Revolution. At least that was the thing that I studied that made it twig for me. No. The French Revolution teaches us that freedom without restraints leads to anarchy. And utopian dreams, like you often hear from the other side of the House, often lead to terror or violence. So following Edmund Burke, I personally have a disposition to preserve, to respect, and to study what is best in our culture. While acknowledging, of course, that there are always areas we can and should improve. I studied history and political science, and political philosophy, really, at McGill, the University of Montreal, with the great Canadian political philosopher, Charles Taylor. Some of you may have heard of him. I think he actually ran for the NDP in Westmount against a guy whose name was Pierre Trudeau in 1968. But he's a brilliant philosopher, and unfortunately, most Canadians haven't heard of him. But he has a lot to offer, and I recommend all of his books. They're a little dense, but well worth the read. Charles Taylor was a great influence on me, and we read together for my master's thesis a lot of books in French, actually. We read de Tocqueville, we read Montesquieu's L'Esprit des Lois, we read Benjamin Constant on the liberty of ancients and the liberty of moderns, and really freedom was the focus of my thesis. But what is freedom? Because freedom clearly isn't just doing what you want. That isn't what freedom is, that's anarchy. And so freedom, in my view, is ordered liberty. In my view, each of us is a link in a historical chain of democratic obligation, past, present, and future. Although the individual may be the basic political unit, the family is the basic social unit. And I believe that we find our personal freedom by assuming the burden of our natural, inherited, and freely chosen obligations and duties, those ones we take on because we want to. We get married, we have children, and we take on those obligations willingly because they make our lives more fulfilling. In fact, you could say they make us more free. And I believe that it is this felt obligation to pursue the good and the well-being of future generations, which is the very thing that can make us heroically devoted to purposes beyond ourselves, even beyond our own families, to the flourishing of our community, our province, and our country. But I got into politics because I'm worried about the direction that our culture is going in. With our very extreme emphasis on rights, that's all we talk about, the rights that we have, and we have little or no discussion about our duties and our responsibilities. In fact, people can be seen sometimes trying to evade those, trying to hide from paying taxes, not wanting to serve in our military, really trying to shirk some of our responsibilities. I think we're losing our compass. I think we're actually losing what makes us happy, which is those duties and obligations that we freely take on. Sometimes, and I think this was particularly true under the last government in the last 15 years, it seems that we're descending into democratic gluttony, if you will, or doctrinaire selfishness. And one example is near at hand, and that is our debt. All government debt is deferred taxation. Someone has to pay it. And it's being downloaded onto the backs of our children, who cannot defend themselves against our democratically produced gluttony. They don't get a voice. We have to be their voice. Our future generations, our children, and we're making these decisions and putting the debt on them. That, I think, is the wrong direction. As I said before, it's an honour for me to rise in this House and to represent the people of my riding, and I want to thank those people again for the honour and privilege of serving them. My riding is the riding of Eglinton Lawrence. I really would not be here today without the help of many people. I would like just to take a moment to mention a few of them. First of all, my very supportive family, including my husband, who is here today, who I introduced earlier. And it's not a secret, we were high school sweethearts, so he's in for the long haul, as it were. But I won't call him long-suffering, because it's great to be my husband, obviously. Sometimes he suffers. Our two grown children, Eric and Alexandra, and my parents, who unfortunately are no longer living, but were certain that I would be elected someday. And also my husband's parents, who are like my parents as well. I was very blessed to have a window into politics at a very early age. My best friend, Jennifer Kaplan, was the daughter of former Solicitor General Robert Kaplan. And my husband's father, Joseph Martin, was the executive assistant to then Premier of Manitoba, Duff Roblin, back in the day. And those two role models made sure that I caught the political bug early, and they encouraged me. But my election is the result of many people working hard for many years, during many elections, and in between those elections. And in this campaign, I had a very dedicated team of volunteers under the leadership of Mitch Wexler, Claire Schulte-Albert, Corey Michaels, and Bernadine Morris. And I'd just like to particularly recognize Bob Amaron, Yuri Otsason, Richard Tattersall, and Katerina Glozik, who never stopped helping through at least 2 election cycles. One incredible volunteer, you all want one like this, Yuri Otsason, canvassed virtually every day for over a year for more than one election. I also want to extend my sincere thanks to my campaign co-chairs, former Finance Minister Joe Oliver, former Senator Concilio Danino, the late Senator Jun Inverga, who was Canada's first Filipino senator, and Senator Linda Frum. It took a long time and a lot of effort to get here, and I pledge to use every ounce of my energy to shape a positive future for this great province and for its people. I am the first Progressive Conservative to be elected to the Ontario Legislature in the riding of Eglinton Lawrence. Which came into existence some 19 years ago. My predecessor, Mike Cole, held the riding for all of that time, and as his many years of service attests, served the constituency ably. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Cole for his years of service to the community. In case you don't know, Eglinton Lawrence is in the middle of the City of Toronto, just about 5 kilometres from Queen's Park, so I encourage all members to come and visit, and I'd be happy to show you around. The riding includes a number of important landmarks, including the Columbus Centre, which is the cultural hub for Toronto's Italian-Canadian community, Baycrest Health Sciences, which is a unique research and teaching hospital with a special focus on brain health and aging. The eastern part of our riding was settled in the early 1900s and was at that time the northern tip of the old City of Toronto. The western part of the riding was settled mostly by Italian, Portuguese and Jewish immigrants after the Second World War. More recently, the riding has benefited from a burgeoning Filipino population and a host of immigrants from various other backgrounds. It's a diverse and vibrant community, which I think of as a microcosm of the City of Toronto. I have been knocking on doors in all parts of my riding over some 20 years in elections for all levels of government. So believe me when I tell you I have met the people, and I have listened to those people, and I have heard those people. And they've told me about their concerns and challenges, and I heard those concerns becoming ever more urgent over the past few years. In this recent election, I canvassed every day for over a year. I have a vivid recollection of some of the people that I spoke with and the concerns they shared, and I want to share some of them with you today. Many people that I spoke with were looking for work and currently unemployed or underemployed, including one resident, a very frustrated resident of Albanian background, who had a young family and a pregnant wife, and who could not find work to support them. In fact, many of the people that I spoke with wondered why the government was making it so hard to work. Recent immigrants told me they came to Ontario for a better life and were very disappointed to discover that good jobs were so difficult to find. Small business owners that I spoke with expressed similar concerns. One wanted to hire 10 young people into good jobs, but was unable to do so because of regulations. Another was getting out of a business that he had been in for years, and as a result had to lay off his 2 long-term, skilled and trusted employees simply because of regulatory hurdles had effectively made the business, in his words, not worth it anymore. Under the previous government, it almost seemed as if Ontario was closed for business. If there was a going concern, they would tax it. And if it carried on, they would regulate it. And when the poor business owner finally threw up her arms in despair and gave up, the government just might come along and subsidize it, or subsidize a competitor. Stories like these make me glad that our new government is taking steps to reduce the size and cost of government and is making creating and protecting jobs a priority. Many of the struggles people are facing can be resolved or at least made better if people can find a decent job to support themselves and their family. The people I have spoken with recently are genuinely relieved to have a province which is open for business again, and a government which supports businesses and entrepreneurs by lowering taxes and reducing the regulatory burden. Other people I spoke with during the election expressed frustration with the mounting bills and expenses that they were facing. Many of the people facing the worst challenges are those on a fixed income, such as pensioners, or those just starting out, both as young adults on their own for the first time ever, or as immigrants trying to build a new life. One older lady from the Caribbean started to cry as she explained to me that she could not afford to stay in her house and pay her hydro bill, despite cutting her electricity usage to the bare essentials. Another older woman from an Eastern European background was in tears because she was going to lose her home, even though she had unplugged her refrigerator and did not put up her Christmas lights that year. A young man who required a pickup truck for his job told me that he would line up endlessly at Costco just to save a few cents on a litre of gasoline because he couldn't balance his budget and was afraid that he was going to default on his rent and lose his apartment. I am thinking of these people and others when I say how proud I am to be part of a government that has already taken steps to reduce gas prices, scrap cap and trade, and oppose other carbon tax schemes and lower hydro bills. You can almost hear a collective sigh of relief across Ontario. Then there are those others who are relying on our public services, who have been holding on for years, hoping that things would get better, but who never seem to benefit from all of the previous government's spending. I spoke with numerous people who have simply waited too long to access basic health services. I also heard from more than a few aging parents who worry about how their now mature but dependent children with developmental disabilities or autism or brain injuries will manage when they are gone. I met a Filipino mother of 2 teenage boys with severe autism who can barely cope with the daily demands on her. There are many, many other examples. I'm proud to be part of a government that will take action to address many challenges through our commitment to ending hallway health care, through special funding for autism, and through our historic commitment to mental health. And I'm particularly looking forward to working on improving access to those services in my role as the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Health, and offering suggestions on autism in my role as an MPP and mother of a child on the spectrum. Ordinary people recognize that the biggest threat to Ontario's public services is unsustainable spending. Some I spoke with at the doors were bewildered by the last government's spending spree. These were Liberals, but they said to me, "When is it going to stop?" And they shook their heads in despair. I'm delighted that our government is already taking steps to restore faith in Ontario's public institutions. Putting Ontario on a healthy financial footing will ensure that we can maintain and strengthen our hospitals, our schools, and other vital public services. Unfortunately, my riding has also been impacted by the scourge of gun and gang violence. On July 8th, I went to an annual community walk for hope and peace to end gun violence. The walk was started a few years ago by friends of a beloved teacher who was caught in the crossfire and killed because he happened to be outside at the wrong moment. I am glad that our government is prioritizing community safety and that it will ensure that our police services have the resources, tools, and support they need to enforce the law and protect innocent people and families from violence. I am excited about the opportunity that we have here to help create a better future for the people that I have spoken of today, for others in my riding, and more broadly for the people of Ontario. This will be a government for the people, which, after all, is what a democracy should be. And I strongly support the approach that we have taken as a government, which looks beyond what divides us, our race, our religion, our language, our sexual orientation, our region, and instead is focusing on what unites us, because I believe there is a strength in that unity. And I believe that that is a better approach. After all, we all want the same things: a better job, a better life. We want our families to have the things they need to succeed, our children to have what they need to succeed. And that, I think, is a better focus. Strength and unity, because together everything is possible. Together, I believe we can overcome the challenges that face us. And together, I believe we can make life better for the people of Ontario. So let's all together roll up our sleeves and get to work for the people.